For people watching at home, and for the other couples that are thinking about coming on and doing these interviews with me, let's start with Leisan and Luke. Maybe give us a bit of background about what brought you to date British guys, and I suppose your experience when you came to meet each other.
Should I go first?
Yeah, sure. Well, why I registered on the website was because I had already been to the UK several times, and I was like as an English language teacher and learner, I was always interested in different accents and things. So I thought, like an interesting website. I actually had no idea that there was a website which was just for like British guys, and I thought, why not? Yeah.
So did you you said did you teach, you taught TEFL, so did you like, had you been over to the UK much?
Well, I studied in London. I got teacher qualifications like CELTA and Delta in London. So yeah, I've been teaching for 12 years now. I mean, I teach English to those who are like starters, and yeah.
Fantastic. Where do you teach them? Is it all online? Is it in the US?
Currently, it is online, but I taught quite a bit in Asia, like in countries like Vietnam, China, Cambodia. Yeah. But today, especially after COVID, I'd say it's all online.
Wow, I want to hear from Luke, obviously, here. There's not a big difference between virtual teaching people and virtual relationships, because you are building that online relationship. So what
Absolutely.
brought you, Luke, to doing this, and I suppose general feeling around virtual relationships, because that probably was what you had for a period of time before you met face to face?
Well, my initial reason for going onto the site was I had this dream of moving to America. So originally, I was hoping to connect with someone from the US, and just as things went along, Leisan added me as a like, and I just went onto her profile, liked the pictures, liked what she'd written about herself. I liked the audio she'd recorded with her voice, and I just thought I'd contact her and send her a message, and be like, "Hey, I'm Luke," and well, that's kind of like just it took off from there, really, didn't it?
So I'm, of course, not what he expected, because I'm nowhere near American, as he
Yeah,
was.
you're from Russia, right? Are you from Russia? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been to Russia about 2013, and I'd learned a little bit of the language, only a slight bit. So it was enough to maybe say a couple of phrases and start a conversation going. So.
But I think it's good that he had been to Russia, because maybe if he hadn't, then he would have, be like, what's this Russian lady? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, no, that's huge that you'd been to Russia. I'd say most Brits probably haven't been, and so that's the thing. It's called Date British Guys. It doesn't have to be the US. It doesn't have to be, we have members from all over the world, but obviously the US and the UK, they're our main population. So for you to look at someone from another country, I guess because she reached out to you, that initiated it. But there is a bit of a reputation on internet dating with people from Eastern Europe, and the problem is credibility, and people have a hard time like trusting, like, oh my goodness, is this person for real? So I suppose, Leisan, maybe you can comment on this. Like, is this something that like is understood as a challenge for people in Russia to connect with Europeans and Brits, or is it just kind of no, you never knew that was any kind of issue, and this is a pretty normal experience?
Well, I have to be honest, like I personally don't know anyone who like I don't have any friends or anyone who connected with people like from Europe or America, and then they became a couple. Like, I don't know. But at the same time, that wasn't my first experience doing long distance relationship, and like we hadn't met before that, like because we chatted for 5 months, right?
Yeah,
and only then we met. So I had a similar experience before, yeah. So, but that didn't work out.
I always kind of think that you always say about when things go wrong, unfortunately, on the, you know, when people tell stories of like this relationship was no appeared to be and everything. And unfortunately, I don't think you get to hear about the successful ones, which, you know, the ones that go right. And I think that just kind of gives a bad reputation sometimes, which may not be always true. I think can be kind of biased sometimes. Though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's why we're doing these videos, right? Because I think a lot of people just don't know. They don't, you know, but when they get to like listen to a couple, actually they're real and they've had this experience. Like I think it's a gateway to more. And so hopefully, you know, there will be more Russians that join after this video. Now you said that you were in contact for 5 months before you met face to face. So how was that experience? It sounds like Leisan had some experience of long distance before, but how would you say that whole experience was for you both?
Well, that was my first online relationship I'd ever had. So um, it was totally new territory for me. It was exciting, scary at the same time. You know, lots of what ifs. I mean, not to mention that obviously with Leisan being the Russian nationality and the whole, let's say what's been going on with Ukraine and everything. We'd met just before that, a couple of months before, like online. We met a couple of months before that. So that was very challenging times. I thought, like, of trying to go through this kind of like relationship, and then all this terrible stuff happens, you know, between like countries, and it was just like it took a lot of faith to push through some of those kind of scenarios, like those things that were going on.
Were you getting any kind of pressure? Did you feel from people you knew, or is it just, hey, suddenly Russia's at war and apparently an enemy of, you know, some of the West now? So
On
do I
my
continue
side,
this conversation?
I didn't have anything negative. I think people were just more concerned that, you know, they didn't want to see someone perhaps, you know, get like involved and get hurt because we couldn't be together for like, you know, political reasons or something. So that was the kind of only thing I had on my side. I just felt like people wanted the best for me.
Mm.
Thankfully, it worked out.
Mm.
Yeah, well, in my case, people actually, because I did even then like had quite a lot of friends from the UK, like teachers maybe who taught with me in Vietnam, and they were asking questions about what was going on in Russia, how people felt about it, like all of those questions. So, which is very understandable. I mean, it's like, yeah, because it's a big thing happening in Europe, so I
Yeah,
understand
but
that.
it's not directly related to you two, is it? So it's like really it's a background story, and your relationship is kind of happening, you know, at the same time as this other narrative. So am I
Yeah, you know, it's
oversimplifying it?
interesting. Yeah, because we right before everything started, like there in Ukraine, we already had booked tickets to go to Turkey. We wanted to meet in Istanbul, but when things started, because I mean, I'd lived in Russia for a long time, so I knew that, you know, borders could close or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. So I thought maybe I just leave earlier just to make sure that things go smooth. And
So you were
yeah.
planning on leaving Russia and relocating in any case. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I thought I would just go on holiday, but with what happened, I just left. Yeah.
So a lot of our um, initial part of our relationship took place within Turkey
Yeah.
instead.
Oh,
So yeah, that's where we first met, was in Istanbul, and then we spent a lot more time in Antalya, where we probably for the course of like just over a year, wasn't it? That we like I kept
Yeah.
flying out whenever I had like time off from work. I'd book a flight to Turkey, go and stay with Lisan for like a couple of weeks, and I think we did that about I don't know 4 or 5 times or something. And
Yeah.
well, we talked about getting married when we were doing it,
Yeah.
and Well, that's where we did get married, was in Turkey.
Yeah.
Oh, so is there any chance of you two staying in Turkey or spending more time in Turkey, or was that just the beginnings of
I
your relationship?
I mean, I absolutely love Turkey. It's one of the nicest places I've been to, and I've got so many just happy memories of there. I mean, the path we're on at the moment to look at going to the US in a couple of years. So that's kind of like our focus. But I would definitely, at least for myself, if we were staying on this side of the Atlantic, Turkey would be definitely a contender for me.
Yeah.
Well, you're both in the UK now, then, is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're in Liverpool at the moment.
Fantastic. So I'm very eager to hear about your family and friends' reaction to the beginnings of this, and I guess where it's at now. And obviously, if they're going to be watching, you know, you can hold back a little bit if you want, but please feel free.
Well, yeah, I'm sure I showed my mom. I mean, see, because I'm easy with those things. I'm sure at some point, like maybe a month after we met each other on the website or started chatting on WhatsApp or something, I told her, "Hey, look, I met these guys." Like, actually, I wasn't in the same city where my parents were, but I just shared a lot of pictures with them and things. So yeah, and then when I moved to Turkey, of course, they were excited about us meeting because they also kind of knew what was going on. And yeah, and then, I mean, they could see how it was developing and how Luke came often to visit me as often as he could. So yeah, and then of course, like from our pictures and things, they could see that things were going well. And yeah, then my parents, I invited them to Antalya in Turkey to visit us for these. Well, it was a wedding celebration, like, but it wasn't official because we had to register it all here. But yeah, we all met up, and my mom, see, she uses this app called Duolingo to learn English, and
I'm using that.
yes, yeah, so it was fun.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've had a lot of support from your family, and if they're learning English, like that's a real effort, to that shows a real commitment. I'm learning Hungarian. My girlfriend's Hungarian.
Wow.
I have to learn it. It's like quite a difficult language to learn. And what about you? Well, what about you, Luke, and your family and their appetite to learn Russian?
I think it was, let's call it an understandable cautiousness. Mainly for my dad to begin with, just because of everything that had been happening, like obviously politically. My mum would be like, for some reason, took to you straight away, just when I was showing the photos and like voice recordings and that kind of stuff. So she was like super excited. And I wouldn't say anyone was ever like against us at all. It was just that more of a concern that they didn't want to see me get heartbroken or something. As soon as it starts getting towards the wedding, though, and especially when my parents met you for the first time, because that was in Turkey, for when we had like as Leisan said, we had the ceremony in Antalya. The official signing for the registry office was in the UK. But yeah, my mum and dad flew out and they met Leisan for the first time and took you straight away. I think it was just like straight away. They were like,
And I hadn't met your mom on a video call as well. I think even your dad, like, I
Yeah.
just said hi. So yeah, I kind of spoke. See, yeah, because my parents hadn't seen you, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, before like the real meeting. But yeah, I've seen your mom.
It's a little bit. I think it's a little bit easier for the if Luke's parents, obviously they speak English, you speak English, they can tell so much in that brief 5, 10 minutes, hour, whatever, because they can read. They can connect with you better, right? When you've got people that don't speak English as a first language talking to someone who is English, it's harder, I think, for them to really like get to know you. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to me that Luke's parents were more on board faster, because you seem lovely and you obviously speak English wonderfully, and it must be a little bit tricky on the other side to build that connection. But at the same time, it sounds like you get on with her parents.
absolutely. I mean, I think I mean, I can speak a very, very basic little bit of Russian, so I'm hoping like that made at least the appreciated the efforts, and I sure did the same. Like,
Yeah.
your parents could speak a little tiny bit of English,
Yeah.
and with between that and between Leisan, we communicated actually pretty well, and a lot of it's body language anyway,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more to communication than just words. So
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like when we walked away, like they were like, now my family, my brother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, and it's
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, just like you said,
Yeah.
it's because even if you don't really talk much, but you can see what's going on, the atmosphere, body language and stuff. It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Tone, body language, and words, right? And the speed of it. So what would you say to other people that are in Liverpool and in Russia, about, that were like half thinking about this as an option for them?
Well, I always think in life, it's the choices you don't do are the ones you regret the most, the ones you never take. And there is a risk with anything. I mean, whether you meet someone in person, whether you meet someone online. Yeah. My advice would be is be genuine throughout with your intents, who you are. Because that's certainly what I felt with Lisan, was like there was nothing that was different. Like when I met her first in person, like face to face, she was the same person I'd known throughout on the chat. There wasn't like she'd pretended to be someone she wasn't. It wasn't like her photos were filtered to, make her look different. She was the exact same person I'd grown to know. And that was important. And I think in just in terms of like sort of meeting people, like a meeting up, it's just I think it's just you just gotta obviously be cautious, be optimistic, and just go with your gut instincts. I think if the chemistry's there, and of course, I think a lot of video conversations beforehand are definitely important.
Yeah. How long did you two chat before you got onto video?
Oh,
Not long,
about 2 weeks, I think. We
Did
started with we started with the chat on Day British Guys, and then we moved on to WhatsApp, didn't we? And then eventually onto video chats.
It's funny that you mentioned my not photoshopped photos when you told me that yours was photoshopped, the one that he posted on Date British Guys.
Well, I was talking about you, not me. Said you were genuine, didn't say I was.
He looks like a very handsome man. I'm sure the pictures were equally as accurate.
Well, it wasn't photoshopped, it was more staged.
Well, yeah. Because he was looking for an American girlfriend. He was pretending to be playing the guitar with some background, like he's a chill guy in America.
So you made me blush now.
And how is your guitar skills, Luke?
I can play the guitar. Not fantastic. It wasn't a lie. It was a photo that showed interesting things.
But keeping in mind, I don't really like American things. This is British guys, not American guys. So I don't think that he actually made the right choice for me doing that. It still worked.
It worked, yeah. She probably found the most American British guy she could find, especially with the
I saw that, map of US map. Obviously, that is the goal on your wall.
That's the goal, yeah.
You can see a map. I don't know if you can see it. There's a map of England behind me. So obviously,
oh yeah.
My goal is to get back there, I guess. But probably never going to happen. So, but let me ask, Leisan, so what would you say is your advice for members of DBG? I guess any member from either the UK or from Russia.
Well, first, I really think that, like, just like Luke said, honesty is great, even about your purposes, like why you're there, who you want to meet, and so on, right? Because, for instance, I actually met someone there right at the same time as Luke, and just after like 2 3 days of chatting, he said, I'm not ready for a long distance relationship. He was like absolutely honest, and that's so much better than just dragging it on for months and then, yeah. So but then another thing is, in our case, like, because I felt like we had all sorts of conversations, like both practical about how we imagine like an ideal partner and what kind of life we would want, what we want to do in the future, but also like deeper things where we discussed, well, I don't know, even films and books that we watched, read, and it just felt like a genuine connection. And I just think when you do that, it's worth a lot. So because you don't really connect with everyone you meet, right? So I just think that if something like that happens, you just should give it a chance. It's not like you do it every day with everyone. And, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it, talking about long-term goals, your core values, and talk about that future. To kind of get that, do we have kind of the same direction, the same points we want to go? Which turns out, like, obviously we did. And I think that's made the relationship so much easier. Because it is, I mean, if you're going long distance to go meet someone, it's not the same as just going to nip out for coffee with someone you've met in your hometown. So I do think you have to have that slight bit more intimate knowledge of each other in meets if it's long distance.
So,
well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't fly out somewhere like far away if there is not much between you going on, right?
Yeah. How about you, Leisan? How would you say like the connection was like when you've done other online dating and you've met people relatively quickly versus this longer time period to get to know each other? And obviously, it's it's not every platform is going to you're not going to be in this situation very often unless you're doing an international or a long distance thing. So, what would you say are the pros and cons of that?
Well, I did use Tinder quite a lot when I was in Vietnam. Like, I met all sorts of people just to get to know people and stuff, locals and foreigners and stuff. But you know what was really annoying? And actually, a lot of people feel that way, girls, guys, I guess. Because, I mean, when we talk about it, they say the same thing, that what's really annoying is you just keep talking about the same thing, like what you do, what you like, what you don't like. Then you meet the person, you're like, I don't know, it's okay, but it's not like anything amazing. And you just keep moving on. And there are these people, you just keep meeting them. But it's, well, if you just like socializing and meeting new people, cool. But if you're actually looking for a partner, it can be really frustrating. So, but see, I also, in terms of like this long distance thing, as I said, because I actually met 2 or 3 people before, which we also like chatted for 5 months before we met, and everything felt amazing until we actually met. So, and then it was immediately the first like days, it was clear that it's not what it's, but it's not because the people were lying. It's because it was different in real life. Sometimes when you see someone online and then you meet them in real life, it's just the feeling of being next to the person doesn't feel right. It's just, I can't explain it. I don't know, just something's wrong.
Leisan, I want to ask you, how are you coping with the Liverpool accent? Has that ever been an issue for you? I know you're fascinated by language.
Yeah, it was so funny in the very beginning. So, see, I don't like typing, so I like sending voice messages. So when we switched to WhatsApp,
I know where this is going.
I sent a voice message to Luke answering his questions, and then he responded, and I'm like, "What? Sorry, you're speaking so fast, I can't understand anything you're saying." And then he's sending me another message where he's speaking very slowly like a robot. And I said, why are you speaking so slowly? Speak like a normal person. So it was hilarious. And then only maybe a month or 2 later, I could finally, listen to him at the double speed because that's what I usually do. But it took me time to get used to his accent. Yeah.
I think where I come from, a lot of people stay local to where they are. So I think even within the UK, a lot of people just think of themselves as Scousers. You know what I mean? So like they're very local community, so to speak. So I think maybe I'm a bit different in the fact that I do want to go and live in different places, want to go and explore the world more. So I've definitely felt a lot more global since I've met Leisan, because she's lived all over the place, like all over Asia and everything. And like you've opened up a lot of the world to me, I think, as well. So yeah, I'm definitely more global now.
I remember he said that when we met each other, and then he found me on Facebook and my photos like in different locations. He thought that I was just, you know, some kind of traveler.
Yeah, I remember I'd seen a Facebook profile and she'd done all these amazing things, like living in Cambodia, Vietnam, China. And I thought, my God, I feel so like boring, just stuck like in one location, doing like just my day-to-day tasks. And I'm like, I did panic, I think, at that point, because I remember freaking out to my cousin, going, "Oh my God, it's like she's so amazing, but like I'm doing nothing." Where I am in the UK, I think there's kind of a sense of honesty with people. Of like, people tend to tell you whether they like something or don't. You know, and maybe other parts of the Western world are a little bit less honest to your face, sugarcoat stuff more. I don't think Russians are like that too much. They're quite very honest. They're put to the point, and I can respect that because I know where I stand. And I think that's something like I kind of feel like, you know, it's not honest to, like in a bad way. It's just honest in a, you know, it's like,
Blunt.
well, I'm not being blunt sometimes, yeah, but not overly blunt.
When he told me that he doesn't like football, and I told him that I don't like shopping,
Yeah.
we're like,
That was it. So